Liberal MLA Carolyn Simpson has quickly established herself as one of the more effective opposition MLAs, both for her ability to get under the skin of Tory Minister Robin Croucher, but also for championing legislation on intimate partner violence and protecting children under 16 from themselves. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. Today, we talk about a premier who struggles to deliver a political quip, government secrecy, and is Robert Mitchell moving the Liberal Party in the right direction? Plus, our stars of the week. It's episode 7 of Myers and MacNeill because life is local. It's time to gab. Stephen Myers, we've made it to episode 7 of Myers and MacNeill because life is local podcast. Who would have thunk we'd get this far?
Yeah, I thought we'd get 2.
Yeah, I think we're surprising a lot of people. Let's get started. One of the more interesting dynamics that we've seen in this sitting of the legislature is Carolyn Simpson and Robin Croucher. And Carolyn Simpson seems to be developing a really good knack for getting under the minister's skin.
Yeah, I think Carolyn's doing a really good job. I think let's start there. And she knows her file. And I think that might be the part that's bothering Robin, is she came from the department, so she knows specifically what she's talking about and probably knows all the players better than Robin does. But I would think that maybe he's touch and go on pushing the envelope on how he's treating her.
Well, I think Croucher has developed into one of the better ministers in terms of effectively communicating. But I think specifically as it relates to Carolyn Simpson, he seems to be coming incredibly close to mansplaining. You know, when he stands up and says as a lead off, how many times do I have to answer the question from the member? As many times as the member wants to ask it. It's question period. It's their right to ask it. So what are your thoughts on that? Did you see the same thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Particularly Friday, I was driving home from Halifax and I was listening to it and I was like, oh my God, like if this was the 2019 or 2020, the women's groups in PEI would have been all over Robin. And I kind of wonder where they are today. Like, you got to be so careful. And I mean, she is doing her job. Nobody's asking Hal Perry why he's asking the same questions over and over again. No one's asking Robbie Henderson why he's asking the same oyster questions over and over again. Nobody's asking Gordy why he's asking the same questions over and over again. Like I think it was cringy for me.
Cringy. That's a strong word.
Cringy.
So if you were advising the minister, what would you tell him?
I'm not going to answer the question. I mean, the answers will set you free. If you believe what you're saying, then just keep saying it. Like, you can't hold her back from asking questions the way she wants it because you think that it's creating chaos in your fragile system. I mean, that's kind of what the purpose of asking questions is to get to the bottom of issues. And sometimes other things break to fix things. So don't blame her for wanting answers.
Yeah, and I think it all sort of focuses on a single word, cut. She will use the word cut to reference the $1.4 million in support staff
But it is a
reduction
cost.
funding. It is it's totally a cut.
Government's trying to say the cuts are only things that programs that are completely disappearing are cuts. But if we reduced you, that's not a cut, that's a reduction. But what's the difference? That's a
Let's talk about other things like Carolyn Simpson, because it's sort of rare that you see an MLA come in and just sort of hit the ground running. She's able to effectively communicate within the legislatures, but she's also bringing forward 2 really important private members' bills. One is an act to amend the Child, Youth, and Family Services Act. This was brought forward or initiated by parent Jenna Banks, whose 13-year-old daughter has sort of fallen through the cracks, and who really knew that if you're under 16 and you sort of walk away from your parents, nobody can really tell you what to do, which as a parent, that's sort of terrifying, especially in this environment. And the second one is the disclosure to protect against intimate partner violence. And that was sort of really pushed forward by Tammy Sanderson, who was a survivor of very significant intimate partner violence. And in both cases, Carolyn Simpson has become their champion. What do you think of that?
Yeah, well, I think clearly Carolyn came to this job with a plan and she's executing it. So good on her. I think that, if you want to get things accomplished in the role that she's been given, you go at them hard like she's going at them. So kudos to her for taking on tough issues, and kudos to her for digging in and doing the hard work to put legislation together to bring to the floor and find the people to sit with her. And so far, I mean, getting one passed, and we'll see what happens with the other one this week when it comes back.
Premier Lance, did he pick another fight with doctors with his sort of very awkward quip in the legislature directed at a past chairman or president of the Canadian Medical Association with the line, "Or wherever he comes from"? It seemed like a really silly thing to say.
Yeah. So I was kind of two minds. I mean, when I first read it myself, I can't remember if it was in the Guardian or I saw it in the CBC, but I read the story online anyways, and I was kind of like, oh God, here now somebody else from outside of PEI telling us what we already know, kind of thing. So I kind of felt like, Jesus, leave us alone. We're trying to fix this. We don't need any more outsiders telling us what we're doing wrong. Then, then when Rob said it, I'm like, ooh, it's not a premier thing to say. Like, that's a Steve Myers thing. That's something I would say out loud. That's not something a premier has to be above all that stuff. So again, get a soldier to say those things if you have any.
I mean, I remember Rob's first interview when he became premier a year ago, February, with Louise at Compass. And she asked him, what's the difference between being a cabinet minister and a premier? And he said, there's not much difference. It's basically the same job. And, that sort of set the tone. Rob Lance is a smart guy. He's an engaging guy, but he is really awful at the short political quip. It gets him into trouble time and time and time again. We saw it on the national stage a couple of times just a couple of weeks ago. And then what do you mean by, I know what he was trying to say with the medical association past chairman. He said, I prefer to take advice from island doctors rather than some doctor wherever he's from. I mean, that also, it has a very uncomfortable feel to how he was raised.
Well, I mean, it opens up what did you mean? Is it because he's a different color or his name is different? Like, it just opens up the things that you don't ever want to be opened up to. It's like, we don't need help from people from outside of PEI right now as we fix our problems is probably a cleaner way to say it. But also, I'm still not convinced it's a thing a premier should say.
Yeah.
But it's okay if
But the,
government says that.
the other thing too is there's an island ER doctor who for the second time is trying to help the Greens get through seemingly common sense legislation that would ease an administrative burden, which everybody on this island acknowledges is significant on doctors, and the requirement to write medical notes for people. Has Rob Lance listened to that doctor? I mean, that legislation failed 2 years ago, and it could very well fail again. How can you say I take advice from island doctors when you actually ignore one who's been sitting on the floor of the legislature trying to get a common sense piece of legislation through?
Yeah, I kind of think that maybe it's common sense legislation. I don't know. I've never heard anybody say I want to not have to get a doctor's note. Like it seems to be like something that niche that they want to spend their time on the floor with. Peter's got a bill that would revolutionize the electricity system on PEI and maybe put money back in Islanders' pockets. And I'll tell you, I hear that all the time that people want the electricity issue dealt with here on PEI. So that's not a niche issue, and this is a niche issue. So my opinion is like, you know, whether he listens to this one doctor or not, I don't think this is a track that Islanders are begging for. And, you know,
No, but it could be a track. It is a track that doctors are begging for.
sure.
And we need
So we can't
doctors.
bend, like, we can only do so much for doctors. We gave them the biggest raise in history. They're making a lot of money. It's great that we have doctors, but I'm not crying the blues for doctors. Doctors are doing okay. I see people that are starving to death, Paul. I see people who can't buy meat at the grocery store. That's the things that people care about right now. Go fight for those things if you want to fight for something. Don't fight for the rich, fight for the poor.
Well, if somebody's sick and a doctor has to do administration, it becomes it
Uh,
becomes a very relevant
Not an issue.
matter.
It's not an issue. The Greens are wasting their time. It's not an issue. You'll not hear it at the coffee shop. Go to Tim Hortons as soon as we're done and ask
Sometimes,
people about a doctor's note.
sometimes leadership is about more than whether it's an issue
It's
that
Not
people are
today, Paul.
talking
People are
about.
angry. Go around. People are angry. I've never seen people this angry. Give people the things they want. Don't get these hot pie in the sky crazy. This is the crazy thing that lost the Greens a whole bunch of seats already.
Well, the Tories have given people what they want for 7 years, and we've got a $500 million deficit.
In 2023, I knocked on doors and people were like, I can't believe I voted for the Greens last time. It was what a mistake. Like it was. Get back to the things that matter to people. Don't invent things that you think matter to people and then tell people they matter to you.
So,
That's the mistake of the Greens. Go back to the electricity bill, fix it because people want it fixed.
so do you think Peter has boxed the government into a corner there?
He's got the bit of it one.
Is the legislation what you would expect, um, Rob Lance to bring forward if he eventually got around to doing it?
More close. I mean, I think it's got a few holes in it. I think it's not tight enough on it's given Iraq many ways out. Like it's basically saying Iraq may, like it has to be such definitive language. And I looked at it and I was going to send them a note and say the places that I thought might be tidied up, but I didn't. I guess maybe that's on me.
What are the chances of that getting passed?
Zero.
And
You should
and,
listen to the debate.
um, how is it possible that government can say, "This is our number one priority. We can't do it," but then opposition party brings forward essentially that bill?
I've already said to you, like, it's not, it's a simple, like, do it. It's simple. Then it doesn't mean that Iraq has to impose to some maritime electorate the very next day. Like, you can bring this in a 5 year plan. Like, so if it takes a long term to make this happen, that's still okay. The legislation eventually will benefit islanders.
But, well, let's go down this road. Is this what's needed to actually bring balance to our electrical system? Or do you need to separate generation from transmission?
Well, yeah, either or.
Independent system operator is what
Yeah,
I'm talking about.
either or. I would tend to think that we could have one system in probably all of Atlantic Canada and it be managed in a way that we ensure we build capacity and that we have people to run the wires and make sure they come out to the home. So yeah, I think either like obviously this is something that PEI can control to bring in a new system on how the companies can earn. To create an IESO for all of the Maritimes is going to take a lot of political will, not just in PEI but in New Brunswick and Nova Scotia.
Well, it would probably be easier in Nova Scotia and PEI as a start than New Brunswick, right? If the Tories wanted to really promote something that doesn't really impact residents in any negative way, the line jobs are still going to be there, but it could improve and create a more equitable energy system and pricing. Why wouldn't the Tories do that?
Yeah,
Why be beholden to a subsidiary of Fortis?
I think they should. I think right now, like the IESO in Nova Scotia is just getting its feet under it. So it's still just hiring staff. And I mean, the head of it, Johnny Johnson, has his hands full just to get to Nova Scotia. And I don't know if we'd want to jump in while they're trying to have the hiccups. Like I think once he kind of gets it running a little bit smoother, it might be the time to have the conversation. So we still might be a year or two out from having that conversation with Nova Scotia to take us on, I think.
How do you believe the government will shift again, Stephen? How do you believe the government is doing handling trickle down cut response?
I I go back to, and I've said it a couple of times here, like if you just put all the cuts on the table to show people, like Islanders now want to know, like they want to know what's getting cut. People who use government services want to know, like what's going to get cut. Like, do the teachers even know what the numbers are? Do we know what the EAs are? Like, has any of that stuff all been rolled out and handed out yet? And I think it becomes like a bigger issue for government to manage that people think that bad things are going to happen versus just put it all out and rather than let us find out later. And I felt like the government's response is quite frankly touch on the arrogant side where it's like, well, we give you everything and you can ask the questions to find out yourself. But I'm like, it's not them. It's not Hal who wants to know. It's 180,000 of us who want to know what the hell is going on in there. So it's not you can find out how. How does the average Islander find out if this is going to impact them or not? And that's where government has completely got themselves unplugged from the grassroots on Prince Edward Island.
Yeah, I thought Ernie Hudson, just along that same line, when he was asked a really straightforward question, is the government going to renew or terminate the NHL deal? Just flat out refused to answer. And then he said, I'll be sitting in the floor of the legislature going line by line, see what we say then. And of course, he didn't really say anything, at least to my knowledge. And that deal has been secret from the get go, but it's now become even more symbolic of a government that has priorities completely mixed up, right? The fact that it can't acknowledge that it is failing islanders, it's failing tourism. And the flip side of this too is, this whole notion of a sunshine list that I've been championing for more than 20 years. And the minister's solution, which is no solution because it's basically just a gussied up version of what the government has already offered for the last 7 years or 6 years. And that's a hard one to navigate because it doesn't really tell you who works for government, what they earn, or what their job is.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know, they're hiding behind the Privacy Act, but you brought it in it as an act. I'm not like you could change the act. You you could make it so that it's not a privacy issue if you chose to. Like it's a terrible argument.
Well, yeah, it's an argument because we're one of the few provinces in the country, if not the only one, that completely really restricts access to the most basic information. In Nova Scotia, there's the Blue Book, which is a listing. I mean, and here's the challenge. I mean, we both know over the last 22 or 23 years since this lockbox of secrecy has been clamped down, that the size of government has grown exponentially, and the cost of government has grown exponentially. And if you look at the list that Jill Burridge points to as being sort of de facto sunshine list, which is complete and utter BS, a deputy minister's salary range is $70,000 in there. And and I think taxpayers have a right to know. A lot of taxpayers were shocked when we found out that Melanie Fraser was making $350,000. Maybe that's the going rate for a CEO at that level now. It's $1 billion business. Maybe it is. Whatever it is, Islanders deserve to know who the big earners in government are. Flat, full stop. You can't argue with it. But this government is so scared of its shadow that it won't do what's right.
Yeah, and I think so. I would agree with you. Let's put it out because I don't know. We are working for the public when you're getting paid by the public dollars. So I think you have to be okay with that. And I think the other side is like you can't be ashamed that people get paid money for their skills either. Like I know the Melanie Fraser example might be on the high end of it, but I mean, spend a lot of time in other parts of the country. People are getting paid good money to do good work if they have skills. And I think that we've seemed to always be scared on PEI to believe that somebody could make good money.
I suspect, and you would know this because I know you dipped in this patronage pool yourself, is the appointed people who really have no business being at a certain level in a department, but they get there because of who they know politically. And that's been a reality of how government operates, liberals
Sure,
and
but
Tories.
I'll say to this, and this is my experience, Paul, is like politics can be in many streams. Like when we say politics, everybody automatically thinks Tories and liberals, but there's a lot of politics inside governments, and you see people moving through the ranks who know somebody in management too. So it's not just politicians that are doing it. Like nepotism on PEI is a thing because we're small. Like everybody knows everybody. Your neighbor wants help, and I think that I just think we're a small jurisdiction, and you're going to see those types of things happen regardless whether it's you take all the politicians out of it, you're still going to see it happen.
I think if you brought a level of accountability to it, which would be actual transparency rather than what Joe Burridge is offering, you would see governments would be forced to reduce it. In the last few minutes that we may have, you want to shift gears and talk about how the Liberals are doing? It's sort of an interesting thing. I mean, individually, each member of the caucus seems to be doing okay. Gord McNeely, you hear things that there are forces within the Liberal Party who aren't even really pleased with how Gord operates. And maybe that's sort of how he asks a question, which is often loosey goosey without all the facts in the question. But the guy's passionate about his topics. And he's probably a win in the win column for the Liberals. And you hear things or I hear things, I'm sure you're hearing the same thing, that Robert Mitchell, he wants people to sort of swear loyalty to him, which to me is, if that's a priority, then the Liberals are off base because
Yeah.
it's a
I
race
don't
to
know. And
14.
it's a mistake. It's like the problem in opposition is there's very few carrots to dangle. So you kind of have to let everybody go do their own thing in their own way. And then to boot, you have a leader who's not in the caucus. So there's even less controls because everybody would look and say, well, you're not even have a seat. Like you're not going to get to say anything on the floor of the legislature. So there's probably a little bit of that going on too. And I do think that, you know, as much as the Tories have probably faltered this session, no other party has really capitalized on it. And the ones that you would expect to capitalize on it are the most are the Liberals, because they're probably the party who's going to be the closest to making the surge to surpass them if anybody does. And then the other side is, I'm not sure that Robert Mitchell has done anything to help that either.
Mitchell's in an interesting scenario. There's the old adage that governments are defeated, opposition doesn't win an election. Mitchell hasn't said anything about what he believes or where he wants to take the Liberal Party or what his alternative would be, and maybe he shouldn't. I mean, maybe that's just me being a little, I don't know, dreamlike in terms of how I think governance should operate in this province. But is he doing enough? I know you've criticized the fact that he sits behind the opposition MLAs many
Well, it's just a
days in
waste
the
of time. Like,
legislature.
go to pick a day, pick a different coffee shop and go to the coffee shop at that exact time and talk to people. Like, go to O'Leary or go to Cornwall or go to Borden, or and just keep doing that same circuit over and over and over and over and over again, and talk to people on the ground who, the coffee shop crowd repeats every message. So they'll repeat your message if they like you. They'll run around and say, I met Robert Mitchell and he was a great guy, which he is. People like him. And do that instead.
Yeah.
Like sitting there, I'm not sure to be seen. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if you I'm not sure he gets where politics is today. Like, people are angry. Being seen might not be a good thing.
Well, and they're angry at both the Tories and the Liberals. That's why the Greens are at 30. By the way, just to reference the most recent poll, the only one we know about, is the Greens have a 11-point lead over the Liberals and a 12-point lead
Yeah, and
over
I
the
think
Tories.
that's why maybe it's not good enough anymore to just say government defeats itself, which I don't disagree with the adage, government defeats itself, but it used to be government defeats itself and the other party, either the Tories or the Liberals, just became government. Like, that's generally the way it worked. But I don't necessarily think that that's a safe bet anymore. And I mean, maybe the Greens can't form government, but can take enough vote away that it makes somebody government that you didn't see, or somebody comes up the middle because of it.
So what's Robert Mitchell have to do? Does he have to get in the legislature or
I think he has
does he
to.
run
Yeah,
in
I think he has to. And
16?
I think, like, I don't think government can go to an election this fall. Like, I don't think they're ready. They haven't done anything, let alone enough to bring back to the electorate. So I think they'll have to go to a by-election, and Robert should run in it and get all the old guard up to help him and see if he can win. And I quite frankly think it may be the best thing for him, and it may be the best thing for the Tories too.
Because if he actually gets in the House, your anticipation is that that may not
No,
necessarily be
like,
a great benefit to Robert
he may
Mitchell.
be, as Wade McLaughlin said to me one time, that Rob Lance and I were both auditioning to be the opposition leader. He'd be auditioning to be the opposition leader is what he'd be doing.
Well, it's an interesting thing. If you look at the bills brought forward, if you were going to have a sitting of the legislature where after proroguing twice, you would think there would be some vision articulated from a new premier who needs to sort of carve his own path. And yet it's the opposition parties who are dominating with sort of the big ideas. And there's no big ideas from the provincial government.
One, you have to be a visionary. And I always say, like, probably less than 1% of the population are that type of visionary. And you have to have it in a political sense, which probably has even less people. So there's probably not a whole lot of people around who can really help them carve out the thing. We were lucky we had Dennis King, who had kind of both those things, where he could track out long-term things and sell it in the public realm. And I don't know who they're asking for advice, but maybe nobody. But they definitely don't seem to have any great vision for where they think PEI needs to be next year, let alone 20 years from now, which is what we should be focusing on. I'm not saying it's not in the works. I'm saying it's a mistake. Yeah, very much they'll lose.
If they go in the fall. Won't they lose next spring if they go with a budget that's cutting 5%?
Depends on who the leader is.
You're still holding to the belief that there'll be another Tory leader at the end of the summer?
Well, I do. I know what they say in every riding in Charlottetown.
Those poll by poll or writing by writing polls are notoriously questionable simply because you have such a small sampling size. I remember Robert Vesey, who was Wade McLaughlin's chief of staff. He was convinced, based on writing by writing, that the Liberals were going to win. Well,
Yeah.
they didn't.
Just that they're really, really strong in Charlottetown. So if you look at any of the polls, their Queens County poll numbers are high, and that's particularly condensed into the Charlottetown area. So like that has been notoriously a liberal seat. Like Robert Giz has held it. Jordan Brown beat Rob in 2015 there. Like it's not, I don't believe there's any seats that are truly Tory seats, but it's not Morale, where you could be confident that Sidney McEwen will win again in Morale, but it's not the same in Brighton.
Right. Right. Star of the week. I'm going to go with the dean of the house, I guess, Robbie Henderson. He's been around longer than anybody. He's an effective MLA anyway, because he combines humor with institutional knowledge, with an ability to ask a question directly. And he also has an even rarer trait among politicians, the capacity to listen to whatever answer he's offered and respond to it. And he's been particularly strong in being a voice for the oyster industry, which is facing decimation. And so we saw the federal government come in late last week with very modest supports, and the provincial government, again, very modest supports. This is the icon of our tourism industry, and we seem to be letting it slip away. So I think Henderson's work is important.
He played in a band in his younger years. I bet you didn't know that. He's an avid record collector. He's a dirty rotten Bruins fan. He can't
I
tie a
did
tie.
not.
He's a dirty
I
rotten
know he
Bruins
can't
fan.
tie a
But
tie.
anyways, like he's a good guy. I like Brown. Mine, I have. It's probably shocking to probably in the entire earth, but mine is Peter Bevan Baker. I but I feel like I think Peter's had a good session, I think, and he had this electric bill that I hope it comes back on this week instead of that other bill, and he had questions about removing climate change from the portfolio, which I thought were good questions, and probably because it's near and dear to my heart. But I thought those were good questions, and Joe Burge got up and said we lowered the GHG like it was a single item, like it wasn't millions of tons of emissions that we have to lower. And that said, it was true. We reduced our 2044 emissions by 10.1% in the report that just came out, largely based on the programs that she just got it. So my star of the week is Peter Bevan Baker. Keep it up.
By the way, just about that piece of legislation, is he effectively boxed Rob Lance into a corner? Because this, in essence, was the first piece of legislation Rob Lance promised, and now it's off to the fall, and who knows when we'll actually see some.
So I'll have to go back and watch and see what government's actually saying on it. But I think they'll try to slip the right out of this one and make it look like there's going to be a more fulsome bill coming at a later time. But I don't think you'll ever see it happen if you leave in government's hand.
Stephen Myers, this has been episode 7 of Because Life is Local. Myers and MacNeill, we're available on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, PEICanada.com, basically anywhere. If you like it, give us a like. If you like local journalism, support local journalism, because it's really important whether you like us or not.
Thank you.
Stephen Myers, episode 7.
Right.
In the books. Thank you, sir.